This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Mike Irwin is standing by from Pig Trail Nation. He gives us some of his time every Monday on the McClarty Daniel Hotline, and we appreciate that. Mike, good afternoon and happy Monday. How are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Bummer of a weekend for the basketball teams, though.
Yeah.
Oklahoma was dominant against Arkansas in the BOK Center. I think Muss looks incredibly frustrated. He's got reason to. And then the women's team loses to UAPB and shows that right now depth is definitely an issue with the women's team. So could have had a better weekend as far as the results are concerned.
Yeah, some will consider this an excuse because the women do have problems. That's not, people will forget about that. I mean, Frank in the old days always acted like if you played one of those teams and lost to them, it would be a disaster. People forget about that game. What matters is the SEC, and they do have some issues there. They've had some good games. They're better in some respects than they have been. There's just no consistency. And they just got out-hustled, out-worked. They got careless, had a lead, started – that team was playing really aggressive defense, especially interior. And so the women just, we'll just shoot some threes, and they were missing, and it got them back in the game. And once it became a game, they just got outworked. The truth is, guys, you play a team like that, you could beat them 15 times in a row, and you lose one time, and it's, this is horrible, you know. But like I say, people quickly forget about that. And what matters is SEC play. The men, I will say that when you've got two guys like Mark and Brazil that are better, they came into that game averaging a combined 33 points a game, and they scored 8. Brazil didn't even score. Mark scored 8. They're not fully recovered from the injuries they had. And when they are, I think, it's a different team. They still have problems. The real issue is defense. I mean, we all know Muss plays a man defense, and you got to be aggressive and quick and have energy to do that. And every year, this time of year, they don't do that, and then we see them kind of come around in either January or February, and they're playing better. So I'm not real worried about that. They played a tougher schedule, guys, than in the past. This is a tough schedule they've played, and OU's a really good team. I mean, Porter Moser really turned them around in 1 year through the portal. But I also will say this. If you watch the game of basketball, so many times the way refs call a game, and I'm not talking about it's one-sided or anything. In this particular case, OU plays a very, very aggressive style of defense. And I don't have any problem with contact, but contact which gives you an advantage should be a foul. If I'm trying to go kind of sideways and then cut sharply back into the basket, and you bump me back to the outside and prevent me from doing that, that's a foul. If you reach in with a forearm and bump me back when I'm trying to make a move, that's a foul. And I just think a lot of times refs don't look at that. There's all this stuff about the fans don't want endless whistles and all that, and I get it. But if you start calling that, and you can understand the difference between contact that doesn't, give you an advantage, which Nolan's teams used to do that all the time. They'd do contact, but, they didn't. It wasn't necessarily an advantage. It was just the way they played. This group, I don't think they will get through the Big 12 being able to do that the way they did it. It's just too aggressive.
Yeah, we have to be tougher. No question about that. In Khalif Battle, he's a bona fide scorer, but what else is he giving you out there? I think El might be our best true point guard. And I don't know if he's in the doghouse or what, but he's a pass-first guard that I think can help. But yeah, if Brazil's not healthy, I don't see this team being but about a 500 team in the SEC. And even with Brazil, maybe they're just going to hover around 500. Maybe,
I don't know. Again, we'll see what happens. We know, guys, that he doesn't really worry about where he finishes in the SEC. It's what you're doing at the end of the year, and one of these years it's not going to work. I don't know if this is the year, but I see some things that have caused some of the things we've seen, and I don't know that that's going to continue. I got to see more to know. They got a stretch of games now where they can kind of work more in practice. If you have to rest a guy, for a couple of games, you can do that and get ready for SEC play. And we'll see where they are, 2 or 3 weeks into SEC play. But, there are people that are scared. They're thinking, hey, they may not even make the tournament. I don't think that's the issue, but you may not get a very good seed going in.
Well, we're little, man. We're little on the perimeter. You look at Ricky Council. You look at Anthony Black and Jordan Walsh last year being the guards, and man, we're not we're not as athletic and as those guards we had last year. So it's a totally different team.
It is. It's a different kind of team, and the issue is, can he figure out what they do and what they don't do? And his practices are intense. And he coaches basketball like some football coaches coach football. It's just study, do this, do that. Here's a game plan for this game, a different game plan for that game. And that, guys that aren't used to that, it throws them off. You're like, what is this all about? So I don't know. I'm not too worried about it, but I could be worried in another week or two.
I think Muss is worried, and it's just, I think, because he's just taking stock in what he's looking at right now and what he's seen for the first 10 games. And look, you're right, and other listeners have made the point that the schedule is tougher before the SEC this year than in any other year that Muss has been the coach. But still, you had to scratch and claw to beat Old Dominion. A home loss to Greensboro, that's one thing that Muss's teams previously had not done. They had not lost at home in November. This team did. Even the Furman game. They had to, find a way to play some defense in the second half. So even amongst the teams that you would look at and say, well, you're going to dominate these teams, you're going to beat them. And even when you did beat them, there was still uneven performances. And it really feels like there's been one game that you've had a full performance, and that was Duke. And you have no problem getting up for Duke with a sellout crowd and people camping out for 3 days. It just feels different right now, and I think in Muss's mind, he can tell it's different because he's as intense as a coach as I've ever seen. That's the earliest ejection also that I've seen in basketball for a long time, and I think he just didn't want to watch anymore.
Yeah, that's you're probably right. I think he was probably also trying to motivate him a little bit and trying to get into the. I will say this: I was watching that game early and talking to a guy that was watching at the same time, and I don't like what Mosier's doing. He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Man, he's working the heck out of those refs." That's when the game was close, and I felt like he got to him a little bit. And that's the kind of little game that gets played, back and forth. But again, they're just. I guess I'm getting old, guys, but man. Going through this football season, nothing as bad as that. I'm just telling you. Whatever happens, it won't be as bad as that was because that's as bad as I've ever seen. Just not even too many guys on that team don't care that they're getting embarrassed at home. There's not only not a home crowd advantage, you're at a disadvantage when you play at home. There was just no connection between so many guys on that team and the home crowd.
Do you think that's why Chris Paul decided to leave? Not a disconnect between the crowd and the players in Chris Paul's mind, but I wonder if he just felt the disconnect amongst the guys he was playing with and the coaching staff, especially in the month of November.
That was the word that he just looked around and said, I don't want to play with these guys. There are too many of them. It doesn't bother them to lose, and it bothers me, and I'll go somewhere where it's not like that. And guys, that's on Pittman. He let that happen. It happened right under his nose, and you can't let that happen. It's also on his staff. Every week when you go out there, you got to be asking those guys and talking to them, what is the matter with you, and figure it out. I don't think it was just the portal. That's what everybody claims now. There's no loyalty. That's being overstated. Yes, there are guys that it becomes about money, but that's most of them still are out there to play because they want to win and because they like playing football. And if you took the money away, they'd still play. So I don't think it was that. It was just I just don't think there were enough leaders within the team. You got to have those guys, and it can't just be one or two. Football involves way more athletes. You might get away with that in basketball, but there's too many guys out there for having one or two team leaders. You you almost need one in every position group, one in every meeting room. And then, those guys talk after practice, when you leave, they're talking to each other, and you got to have a guy that's pushing everybody else.
Mike, you buying stock in Dallas Cowboy football right now? What is Dak Prescott doing right now just to be playing at this high of level right now?
One thing I noticed last night as compared to that first game against the Eagles, they pass protected him a lot better. But he's moving. He's moving better. Now, when he had that one fumble, I thought, uh-oh, he's going to lose this game on that fumble. But they recovered well from that. Their defense was good. They did enough offensively. A lot of field goals where you'd like to see them score, but I thought they'd lose going into that game. I was skeptical. All these guys on the pregame are picking the Cowboys, and I'm going, nah, and then they win, so cool,
Yeah, I'm a CeeDee Lamb fan. I like Smith, Devontae Smith for Philly as well, but man, CeeDee Lamb is really he's really grown on me. And then Ferguson is your tight end you have. He's a solid tight end.
Yeah, there's some energy out there, and I mean from a team that over the last few years you just get mad at them at times. You're like, what are you guys doing? So they're all excited now. I just hope you can continue to do this. If they do that, then they're going to do more than, they're not going to go into the playoffs and one and done. Might win a game or two. I don't think they're going to win it all, but any improvement will be okay with me.
Mike, the college football awards were over the weekend, and Johnny Heisman, Jaden Daniels this year. Did you have any problem with that? Was he a deserving winner?
No, I picked him, and I thought maybe he wouldn't. I thought maybe he wouldn't win it, but he did, and I was glad of that. I went with people can't believe I did this because I don't like Missouri. I don't like anything about him. But that running back they have, that kid he's what I really like in football. You get a kid like that, how could you not? So I picked him third. He didn't finish third, but
I think he finished seventh. Yeah, he was solid, man.
Yeah, so it was okay. But I've tried to pick an SEC guy if I can. I'm not going to just do it for no reason. But I thought he deserved the Heisman. I mean, that guy he can run, he can throw, he can take a hit. I mean, he was huge.
If you're him, do you return?
I think, Phil, is he RG3 or is he Johnny Manziel? Who is that type of quarterback? What does his game translate to?
Neither one of them translated much into the NFL. RG3 because he was brittle and he was running a little too much, and Manziel that was more of a
student of the game.
Yeah, brain kind of a thing. Yeah. What you deem is important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't predict what he's going to do, but I just know what I saw this year, and I mean, every time I saw that guy get into a pinch, he just did all kinds of stuff. I mean, he was maybe a little different, but to me, he was Mahomes-like in his ability to just come up with something. I'm going to keep this drive going. I'm going to figure out a way to get a first down. And boy, when you can run like that and throw the ball the way he does, whew.
Last thing. It's been a week since the portal opened. We're talking quarterbacks here. The farther you get away from the date the portal opens, the more it begins to feel like KJ Jefferson may decide to stay at Arkansas. And I wonder your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been checking around. Nobody seems to know. Somebody told me just this morning that they had cut his NIL back. It won't have the same if he comes back. I just can't believe you're going to bring quarterbacks in for a visit if you think he's staying. I mean, I know, Matt, you don't like people to talk about you in the context of stuff like that, but that kid from Boise reminds me of you. He's a runner, tall guy with long legs and takes up big strides, and he's fast, but he's got a good arm too. I mean, that to me looks like a Petrino quarterback. When I look at KJ, he's not what Bobby described at that press conference the other day of his ideal quarterback, the kind of guy he likes working with. So I don't know what's going to happen. I agree with you. The longer this goes on, you're sort of going, what's happening here?
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.